Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, what I like to do is to create videos that I would have found helpful when I first got out looking for treasure. I came home today and I found a bunch of packages. I'm not sure what's in them. Odds are they're something that I purchased off of eBay, and if they are, I'll end up. Well, if they are, you'll see what's in them. If they're not packages off of eBay, I guess you will never see this video. So, if you're watching this right now, I clearly bought some little something or other off of eBay. I think one of these probably contains what I hope is some gold. I think does that look like gold to you? I think it might be gold. And the other one, maybe just a video on this thing. This other one here, let me crack it open real quick and we'll see if it's also an eBay package. The other one was not. So that happened to be something my wife ordered for the kids. Socks. I'm guessing that's uninteresting to anyone who watches my channel. But this will hopefully be very interesting. But we will find out. So these are metals, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll probably have noticed that I like buying these old little metals. The reason is that while most of them are brass, occasionally you get the 10K or just a slightly under 10K. I would, if I were going to sell this one ever, I would call it 9 karat because it's not quite 10 karat. I would imagine people might sell it as 10 karat. This one's a pretty strong 10 karat, however. Now, the question is, in here, did we get some more gold? And what we'll do here, so we have examples of gold ones, and these are the new ones that we just got. Let's lay them all out. I'm going to zoom in real close so you can see ones that we've already confirmed are gold next to our 4 new ones. And you can see if you think that any of these 4 new ones are gold before we test them. So, if we zoom in real close, or as close as I can get, I think these two were probably plate or fill, and these two could potentially be gold. Now, when you compare to the ones that are gold, I think you can see why. First off, there's definitely a color difference, but much more important than the color difference, if you look here, you can see that this is fairly deeply engraved. Thornwell Trade School for the Orphans, and it's a thin piece. It's a really thin piece. So to make this gold fill, you would have backed this with brass. And that's something that, you might not necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily add much to the cost, if anything, to the cost of a piece like this. Because a piece like this is effectively just the face without the brass backing. Now, in this case, the whole thing, except for, I think, the pin, I don't think the pin or the loops are actually gold, but the rest of these 2 pieces are both karat gold. So if we look at these other ones, and we see, for example, here, if we zoom in, one of the first things that we will see, see how there's a different color down there in the engraving as opposed to this one where the color stays consistent down in there? That's a good sign that this is gold fill or gold plated. You can see it's on both sides. Now, if you were to test this, say on an XRF machine, it could be thick enough like that if you tested it right here, it would show up as karat gold. But if you tested it along where the engraving is, you'd probably get the fact that it's actually plate. That's a real good example of a high condition piece of gold fill. Also, notice how it is thicker, significantly thicker than this other piece that we know is gold. So for those reasons, I'm certain that this is actually gold fill. I think this one probably is the same way. Let's see if we can have a close-up look at it. It's not quite as obvious as this one. Now, color isn't always the best indicator. Like, the color in here looks really good to me. And, you know, it matches close to that. But this is also a color that could be gold. So, depending on the mix. So, when we look down in here, do we see... You can see where my camera, like, when I get in there, ended up changing the color quite a bit. But, see how we have the same thing going on where it's, like, dark down in there? And the reason for that is that it was engraved down to the point of the brass, and the brass has tarnished, whereas on the surface the gold has not. Now, a piece like this will sometimes end up being a little odd, though, because you might have like this piece up here being karat gold, or like the piece around the outside being karat gold, and then that piece being the gold fill. But in this case, I don't think so. In fact, I think we have the exact same manufacturer. These are the exact same manufacturer, and these were both stamped out in the exact same way. This one just happens to be mounted in a different fashion. And that's, again, a good thing to think about, because you may have a piece like this that's gold fill mounted in karat gold. In this case, though, since we can see the engraving down in there, I don't think that's what we're looking at all. I think this is all gold fill in both of these cases, or a thick gold plate. They look good enough that I think they probably are gold fill, and there's a good quantity of gold in these, but they aren't solid. Now, these other two pieces could theoretically be solid, and that's why I bought this auction. Now, before we continue, why don't I stop for a moment and I'll tell you how much I bought this auction for. I'm become a little infamous for forgetting how much I pay for these things, but I'm going to fix that right now. And we're back. So for these 4 new pieces here, I paid $24.04 after shipping. So if one of these ends up being gold, we're doing fine. Let's start with a little piece. And it is a very little piece. Now, the first things that make me think that this is good for being gold are, there's a real nice shine to it, like little micro scratching shine. It's real thin and small. And these are all good signs that we were trying to save on material costs. But the shine means that we're looking at something that really hasn't tarnished up much. Secondly, you see how uneven these patterns are over here? They look possibly like they were hand engraved. It's hard to tell. Maybe stamped. I'm not sure. If they're hand engraved, they're more likely to have been made out of gold. Let's look at the edge and see sort of what we have going on there. A little bit thicker, which is something I like less, but I'm not seeing the same kind of signs I did on the other for being gold fill. Now, that said, there is no engraving on this piece of a name done after the fact. So this could still very certainly be a gold fill piece. And we will go ahead and test this in a moment, and we'll see what we come up with. If it is gold, I think most of these end up being at best 10 karat. I haven't seen any of these that are 14 yet. Not that, I never say never, but in this case, I think probably at best we'll come up with 10 karat. Now, this is the one that I think is most likely to be gold out of the whole pile from the eBay pictures. And at the end of the video, keep in mind, I will link the eBay pictures so that you can actually see what I was looking at. Now, the first thing we want to look at is, yeah, see this? See the LB there? Is it LB? Is it the same person? No, E.V. Eggert, LB, PB, I'm not sure. But do you see how if you look down in there, it's not black, it's not dark, it's not discolored, and see how the light catches it? So you know that when they engraved it, they didn't get down past whatever the material on the front is. So we know that this is at least like a thick plate of gold. And then the other good sign is that all of this work is very clearly engraved. Somebody went through and engraved all of this design for the, what would this be, a lyre? The instrument, these seem to be for music. Oh, yeah, right there, it says music. And again, we're looking at a real good, that was engraved, hand done, but we're not getting through the material. So let's flip this over. Let's have a look at the back. Now, since these are usually low carat, a little bit of tarnish, we'll see if that's tarnish or just some sort of schmutz on there, is not necessarily a bad thing. 10 karat gold tarnishes, and it can tarnish quite significantly. See how shiny this still is mostly? And those little tiny little micro scratches all over it? Those are really good signs for gold. Now, that might just be gold on the surface if it's gold fill, but in this case, I am not seeing signs of gold fill. And then the other thing that's good about this is on the edge, it's fairly thin. So we have a real thin piece here with deep engraving. So if this piece were not one solid consistent metal all the way through, that engraving would be showing us, just like this, what that other metal underneath is. Now, that isn't to say that it's gold. Something like this, if it's properly made out of brass and properly polished, can look just like this. Can look just like the gold. In fact, if you are buying these expecting gold, don't be. I purchased this expecting this to be brass. Now, the longer I hold it, the more I think it probably is actually going to be something close to 10 karat gold. But that wasn't how I purchased this. I purchased this expecting it not to be. The other thing to keep in mind before I go test this is that there are 3 distinct pieces here. So you have the lyre, you have the wreath around it, and then you have the piece that it's hanging off of, the little banner there. All 3 of those could be different alloys. All 3 of those could be completely different metals. Now, they look to be made out of the same thing in this case. So I think what I'll probably do, because of how testing will be, is since I don't see any real difference between them, I'll end up testing the wreath, and we'll see what we've got there. Because I think if the wreath is gold, then we're probably good for the whole thing being gold. All right, without further ado, I'm going to go run off and test these 2 pieces outside, and I will be back. All right, I am back, and both pieces tested positive for 10 karat and negative for 14 karat. In fact, they were so strong in terms of testing on 10 karat that I decided that it was worth checking to see if they were 14 karat. And they're not. They are both, I would say very comfortably, they're 10 karat gold. So the question is, for our $24.04, did we do okay? And there's 2 things we can weigh here too. These would be gold fill. You can definitely see how much gold is on there when you go through that. I would probably get those tossed in the gold fill. Maybe. I don't know. We're not going to call those gold fill. I think I'm going to put them in my gold fill, but since they're not marked, they're going to get segregated into something that's probably gold fill. We're not going to weigh them for this. We will weigh these. Keep in mind, we have the pins. The pin on this one may be gold. I didn't think to test it. But you see those little chips there? And the color? I don't know. We can always test it when we have some time later. I would expect it not to be gold. Most of them are not. Sometimes they'll be marked on there, but this one is not. I think these are probably just plated. So let's go ahead and weigh these up and see how well we did. So gold is something crazy like, what was it, 116 a gram? 3.34. Boy, my children have run away with my calculator again. Now, this is a very high time for gold. I don't know if gold's going to keep going higher, but I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to do a quick calculation, figure out how much money that is, just because I want to know, and I might as well tell you in the video. So this is early September 2025, and as of recording it, that's $150 worth of gold right there, pretty much. I'm just accounting for the pins. So gold is crazy high right now, and it can be well worth grabbing little bits and bobs of this stuff. Now, I will also note, these types of things aren't very easy to sell. If you were to actually be trying to cash out gold like this, that's unmarked, old, is gold and will test as gold, but is still just, you know, it's not like it's bullion. It's definitely harder to sell. Obviously, some people might collect these. I'm not sure what the collector's market is for them, but I would not expect to be able to sell this at top dollar very easily. You know, it might be $150 worth of gold in there, but you're probably going to take a hit because odds are, if you want to extract that full gold value, you're going to have to send it off to a refiner. And at that point, you'll maybe get your 150 or something near that. But for me, I have a great deal of fun with this, and I like turning $24 into $150, at least in my mind. And it can go into the stack, and it can go into the collection. I think they're very nice little pieces. And, you know, someday my children will have a lot of random gold they have to figure out what to do with. And I think these two pieces will probably end up in there too. Or maybe they'll end up as a prize in a 5,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm not sure. Might make for a good little prize. I don't know. What do you folks think? Leave a note in the comments. I'm planning a few things for my 5,000, and we'll see. Might be fun to give away a little bit of gold. With that, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit that like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe. Really helps out the channel if you're not a subscriber to subscribe. And, you know, leave comments or share the video around. It's just it's a real big boost for me to keep making the videos when people are really engaged, and I really appreciate that. Most importantly, though, I hope that you have learned something today and that you can use this information to go out and find yourself some treasure.
Thank you for watching.